Just to let subscribers know, Skinwalker Ranch 3 has now been released.
Now, Tucker did an interview with Mr. Archer here, who apparently was in front of the impeachment proceedings that are behind closed doors that we did not get to see. Now, I just really want to see if this is a credible witness, because you can have a witness that's really credible, but if they come off as snaky, they're going to be hard to believe.
So you worked with Hunter Biden in a bunch of different businesses. What were the specific skills that he brought to clients?
Well, at the end of the day, he had a career in Washington, graduated Yale Law School, and had a very big network in D.C. and brought that know-how and understanding of D.C. and ultimately the Biden brand.
So here we see this gentleman speaking, and he's got a little bit of snakiness in it. He's very stiff in the spine. You see a lot of movement in just the neck area. You also see the believe me look on him. His eyeballs are plastered open. And he's looking kind of around Tucker. He's not giving great eye contact. And since we know that this is probably a stressful situation, we're going to, at the moment, chalk it up to that stress.
The know-how, so as far as I could tell, he wasn't doing legal work. I mean, he wasn't in the counsel's office at Burisma, right?
No.
So
No. And that was odd. He wasn't doing legal work, and he's talking about Burisma. And the guy goes, no. In just a micro moment, the eyes flash open even wider, and they're already in the believe me look. And he doesn't really move. The body does not sing with him. No. And I think he was doing legal work.
the network and the Biden brand sounds like the kind of key component of
absolutely
what he was bringing.
Yep.
Do you think that he...
Network, Biden brand, we see the closed mouth, tightness. Yeah, it seems kind of snaky, and not in the sense of it didn't happen. It's the sense of there's lying by omission, which I hate. I hate that kind of lie. And it must be really big omission because he seems to be so stressed on it. Like it's a major part of this story, and which is odd. Could it seriously be any worse?
He would have been in those businesses, not having a business background, without his father being in a government position.
It's hard to speculate in those regards. I mean,
yeah.
I think when we initially met and...
we can start to see that we are trying to keep the big guy out of it and make it more of a Hunter thing. That seems to be what's coming through because all of a sudden the eyeballs are starting to relax just a wee bit. Now the spine is moving with the neck and he's moving.
Coming from a business background yourself are kind of complex.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a complex business. Takes years of training, but again, the initial idea around the business that they were going to provide, the government insight and an additional network to raise capital and then, deal with regulatory issues that you might have at the corporate level.
So he's relaxed now at this point. We have gotten past Hunter Biden and his role in the whole thing as far as what did he bring to the table, which really was apparently his daddy.
Right. Regulatory issues.
Exactly.
Okay, so that would be more his area.
Right, that would be his space.
Right. But did he have a sophisticated understanding of regulation, do you think?
I think that he led a team that had a sophisticated...
Okay, because I lived in Washington a long time around a lot of regulation. Also a very complex area.
Absolutely. I think you got to be an expert in knowing the guy, and he was the guy that was the expert in knowing the guy.
He was an expert in knowing the guy.
Right.
And who was the guy he knew?
Well, he knew a lot of people, but obviously there was some familiar, his brother, his father, some of his father's siblings. So he knew a lot of people. And obviously I know you're pointing to, the father being the key relationship.
No, I'm just trying to get a sense of, like, Washington's not a money town.
Right.
People aren't in business in Washington for the most part, and most people don't have business skills that I noticed in 30 years of living there. So really the business of Washington is selling access. That's what it looked like to me. Yes. Not just Hunter Biden, but
I think that's one of the core misconceptions. I mean, it seems like when understanding a regulatory environment means selling access at the end of the day. That's how I interpret it. And I think that's how most people in Wall Street, whether they admit it or not, interpret it.
Yeah. So we've got a complex business that intersects with government. We need a guy who knows it.
Right. How do I, deal with getting a guy a visa that needs to come over for a business deal? Right. Call our lobbyist that knows the guy in DHS or used to work in DHS, or, in Customs and Border Patrol or the people at the embassy and state. They might be able to help. So there are very tactical elements that are regulatory and compliance and governance that you have to go through, and you got to know the guy that worked at the old agency that now has the lobbying firm that can go back to the agency and get things put to the front of the line.
So the reason I'm asking this is because it's not to give the Bidens a pass, hardly, but when people say, well, there's some question about whether Hunter was trading on his father's name, if you live in Washington, that's the whole city right there.
Right. I think you know the answer to that. At the end of the day,
so
he had the best advantage to do that because of where he was. And, we thought that when we went into business, this was a great opportunity for us.
So I get it. And you're not the only one who did that.
Right. There were a lot of
Hunter
businesses.
Biden's not the only son of a...
So now that we've gotten past this whole crux of it, you see his body's much more relaxed. He's leaning forward. He's laughing. He's a little tight in the front because it's a taboo subject. But it's finally, everyone has addressed, or at least in this two-man room, the elephant, which is, that's a whole business of Washington. They don't call it a business, apparently. It's access. You're buying and selling access. That is Washington. It makes me think of people that you see, left and right commentators, and that is their whole thing, buying and selling access to individuals. That is the DC swamp.
Seacliff, Long Island, which is a little Victorian kind of hippie town on the North Shore of Long Island. Born on the same street as my wife, Dayton Street.
Wow.
Yeah, and so for the first 3 years we were together on the same.
Now, as you see him speak about his wife growing up, he's got the bulimia look plastered on him, and this is just that high stress environment, and that's fine because his body is loose with him as he does it. His neck's moving, his spine's moving, and everything's kind of independent and just going with the motions of the words coming out of his mouth and going through his brain, which says, we are seeing truth.
Street, I'm a year older, so her.
So he goes to a visual memory. I'm a year older. Very normal things for a person that we're expecting to see the truth on. This is what they look like. It's normal to have a little bit of stress. It's normal to have a bulimia look with it. That's okay. It's when everything is saying I'm a liar that it's okay, this is bad. But there's a part in here that we're going to get to. I just really wanted to hammer down his truthfulness because we don't know him, so we don't have a baseline for anything.
What we looked at was okay, why are you kind of teaming up this? And there was no investment in it. It was Rosemont Seneca Partners was kind of a dovetail concept. It's not like we didn't fund it, nor did they fund it. We just said they had their strategic advisory business. We had our private equity business. Let's combine forces, expand our network, and maybe get some help. Or maybe when we talk to a strategic asset that's, selling we had a company that sold body armor, for instance. Maybe we could get a military contract because someone in DC knew the Pentagon people. I mean, it's just simple kind of connecting the dots.
It is, but if I can just, and this is not a criticism of you because I lived there, I didn't see this either. But if you're looking for money, Washington logically would be the last place you would go.
Right.
I mean, you go to New York or maybe Los Angeles or maybe Dubai or Milan or places where people do business. But Washington's not about business, it's about governance.
Right.
It's kind of weird, isn't it? And maybe a sign of deeper corruption that Washington is like the place you go to raise money.
So maybe a sign of deeper corruption. And Tucker's really hammering it down. So this is kind of weird that you would go here for money. You see him with his hands. He's now gating himself. No, it does not mean Illuminati. His head, his chin goes up. The softness in the face as far as the human connection of smiles is gone. It's a much sterner face. We are reaching a realm that has made him stressed.
Money.
Yeah, I think, where we were.
And as he's going to respond to this, he wiggles into the seat. He's going to anchor himself into the response that he's about to give.
In this, and
as you can see via the eyes, he's gated.
In kind of the, in the world of private equity, we're a very small private equity fund at the end of the day. So the network that you're going to is more family office, high net worth individuals, and then maybe you get a breakthrough with a pension fund. So I think the fundraising elements of linking up with Seneca Partners was really that, but we took advantage of all the kind of strategic advisory work and the network that they had to promote to the assets to promote to the other, to people that we're raising money from. Say, oh, listen, we have a DC office. We know how to operate. This is going to give.
So here you're seeing the believe me look, and the spine doesn't really move. You see the head go up, but the spine isn't twisting. It's just the eyes are getting bigger, the head is going further up, so you see a lot of positive in it, and the spine is stressed. Then you go, oh, okay, there's some deception here. Because as you hear verbally, he's downplaying what was going on. Oh, it's more of the family offices. It's not that bad. We weren't making deals with the devil.
Can I just ask, this is not related to you,
Yeah.
you were not able to get pension money, right?
No.
But do you believe, having operated in this world, pension funds are some of the biggest investors in the
Absolutely.
world?
They are
Of
the
course.
institutional investors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you think that political leverage allows people to get investments from pension funds? I mean, clearly it does.
In the world?
In the world,
Yes. Absolutely. Unfortunately, we were not able.
No, you weren't able to. But like the idea that a pension fund would make an investment decision based on political calculations is like the definition of corruption, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that I think there's an entire world and business that's been focused on trying to create those lines of demarcation. I mean, it's one of the biggest. I mean, all the.
So he's being gated on this, but there is some looseness. That spine is not solid. It wants to move. He's just being gated. I'm assuming not to implicate himself or whatever. And it could, and I don't mean in the sense of a legal sense, but I mean in the sense of you don't want to appear dirty. And even though you may have done nothing illegal, you don't want to admit, and this is just an example, that he actively tried to get pension funds.
The pension managers. I mean, it's a whole world to. It's a bigger discussion. But yes, obviously, that would be the ultimate form of corruption.
That face says it all.
So just to sum up what I think we're hearing
Sure.
so far is that you're on a pretty conventional business track.
Correct.
You're working for a big bank at first, and then you decide to move into this burgeoning private equity world,
Right.
which really was exploding at the time. And then at some point, having gotten the business off the ground and it's succeeding, you look to Washington for opportunities there.
Right.
And you run into Hunter Biden or set up with Hunter Biden.
Right. I'm set up with Hunter Biden, and again, at that time, it seemed like it was hindsight.
All right, so here we're very, very gated. You can see it in the eyes. You can see it that the fact that the spine does not want to marry to the neck. The neck is moving, but the body is stiff. There's a whole lot of stress deception going on in this particular instance. And it's probably wordplay. It just seems like this is lying by omission. Actually, it would be that, lying by omission. It says to me that I'm really glad he's, I guess, coming out, but at the same time, it's the snake you don't trust. Well, that's great. This poisonous snake killed the rat. Such a nice guy. Oh, crap. He's killed my dog.
If you like it, please share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.
If you'd like to learn more about analysing body language, there is a video course available on Mandy's website for Gold subscribers.